Okay, it's November 10th, and the U.S. Senate advances a bill to reopen government 60 to 40. So last night they had a test vote, which basically they're seeing if they have votes or not. And it turns out the Republicans actually did vote yay, and I think some Democrats voted yay as well. Um, but this is kind of crazy because they could have been doing this the past month and a half. The Democrats have already admitted that they did this for political advantage on the elections, the off-year elections that just happened last week. So this is basically just showing you that the Democrats really don't care about you. They just did that for political leverage, even though I don't think they even needed to do that because I think the Democrats are going to win those elections last week anyway. So once again, everything the Democrats do ends up firing against them. I mean, it always retaliates against them. It's insane. So this isn't like an official reopening. They still have to pass the bill, but they had the votes to pass it. And yeah, I'm not sure when they're going to do the vote, but this is a good sign because now, if this actually happens and the government opens, then everyone will calm down. The air traffic control will be back, and the SNAP benefits will be back, and all of a sudden everyone will be living their regular lives again. So anyway, just after all this nonsense, after all this back and forth, we finally have the votes to reopen the government. Wow. So that's kind of a huge story today. Again, the government's not open yet because they still have to pass, but it looks like it's going to be happening soon. And that's a good thing. I mean, not really, because the government has a lot of programs that aren't useful. But the Democrats will actually won't be able to blame Trump anymore because it'll be open. So that's a big deal. Huge deal today. And then 100 Christian leaders urge Trump to save Syria's Christians as he hosts President Shara. So President Shara came to the White House today. You know, the guy that killed 10,000 Christians, the leader of Al Qaeda, the guy that everyone put a bounty on. He's all of a sudden Jesus. He's all of a sudden the greatest person ever. And we all need to give him money. We all need to say what a good job he is, all this nonsense. So basically, a lot of Christian leaders are aware of the situation, the smart ones, and they're basically telling Trump not to be so easy on this guy and to raise issue of minority rights and protection in Syria's ancient Christian community. So Syria has an ancient Christian community, but the U.S. with Israel, we destroyed it on purpose. But there's still a remnant there of Christians. Somehow they survived, I guess, and yeah, they're still getting persecuted. I mean, this is not a good situation happening in Syria. But the president, the Al Qaeda leader terrorist, he's at the White House getting free money, free food, all this stuff. Um, and that's politics for you. So basically, I don't know if Trump is going to do anything about this because it's in his strategic um, provision, I guess, that Syria is an ally and they do somewhat good economically. But the problem is, if that happens, President Shara, the Al Qaeda terrorist, um, it's gonna make him look good, and then he might stay in power basically forever because it's not like they're gonna be having elections in Syria. So it's kind of a weird situation. Trump wants Syria to do well, but he doesn't want this guy to get the credit. But there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, we're not going to go back in Syria and do a regime change. I mean, that's off the table. So unfortunately, Syria might just get a whole bunch of money here and no more sanctions, and it's going to make this guy look like a good leader when really it's just Trump doing this. But yeah, so this is terrible. The whole situation in Syria is terrible. And these Christians living here don't deserve this. But Welcome to the real world. And then Trump's war on narco terrorists intensifies. 6 cartel operatives killed in Pacific strikes. So, um, I believe this was today actually, but this was in the Eastern Pacific. We all know what's going on with the drug boats that are coming over here. And some people are saying that these aren't even drug boats because these small boats don't even have enough fuel to reach America. I don't know. I don't know. But the intelligence that Trump is getting is basically saying these are narco terrorists. That's why he's eliminating them. And there's like, how can we investigate? I mean, is someone going to go dive in the bottom of the ocean and find out if these really were or not? I mean, no. So, like I've been saying, these boats are not going to stop, which makes me believe these are narco terrorists because all they're doing is transporting it and then they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. So, absolutely, people are willing to risk their life for that. And especially coming from a country that is not economically prosperous and everyone's poor, you're always going to have someone willing to risk his life to bring drugs here. It's just the way it is. So, like I said, I think this is like the 17th or 18th strike. And like I said a couple days ago, we're going to be at 20 soon, and here we are. So, give it a few more days and we'll be at 20. But I thought that was interesting. And this was pretty funny. Hochul rejects Mamdani's free bus ride plan. So, this is interesting because when Mamdani was campaigning, he had this campaign or rally in Queens, and that was with Bernie Sanders, AOC. I think that was the one when AOC literally just got up and started screaming in the microphone. Anyway, that same rally, Hochul was there, and when she took the stage, everyone booed her. So Hochul's in a weird spot because the people that voted for her don't like her anymore, but she needs to stay relevant because Mamdani's voters are the Democrat voters of New York, and she's a Democrat. So if she wants any Democratic support, she needs Mamdani and his supporters to like her, which makes me believe that she won't win re-election. I think Stefanik will win. But anyway, she's rejecting this obviously because we can't pay for it. I mean, for Mamdani to do a lot of what he wants to do, he needs government or governor approval because Mamdani's just the mayor, he's not the governor. So if he needs funding and all this, he needs to get approval. And Hochul has already basically said she's not willing to give him everything he's asking for. But she has to do that in order to gain popularity in his voters. So Hochul is in a very weird situation. She's going to have to make a decision whether she wants to stay relevant or keep the economy afloat. And she's a crazy Democrat, so she probably will go with relevancy, which means New York City will go bankrupt soon. And I believe it will take over 15 years to recover from that, so whatever. But she doesn't care. She's going to get her payday. So we'll see what happens because we're kind of heading towards a battle between Mamdani and Hochul because Mamdani wants this, but Hochul says, I don't have the money for it. See, this is what's called socialism. We used to call this socialism when I was younger, but people want to have new terms. But anyway, both of these people are insane, and I don't think Mamdani's going to be able to do a lot of what he says because apparently New York already has safeguards in place for this because when New York went bankrupt in the 70s for the same plans, it took over 15 years to recover. I think they only started recovering once the 90s started. And ever since then, they have laws where you can't have free this, free that. Basically, a lot of what Mamdani wants. But apparently, there's already laws in New York that says you can't do that. So how is Mamdani gonna pull off his agenda if the governor doesn't support him and the laws are against him? That is going to be a fun show that we are all going to watch over the next few years. And then let's just go over some headlines. Deal reached to end longest ever U.S. government shutdown. Yep. Hopefully it passes, because if it doesn't pass, then like we're still back to where we were. Trump pardons Giuliani and other allies accused of trying to overturn 2020 election results. Yeah, I thought he was already pardoned, but I guess not. He also pardoned Sidney Powell, who nobody likes. That's a little strange, but Trump kind of has a history of pardoning people he doesn't really know that well. His advisors just kind of tell him do it, and then he does. But he was very close to Sidney Powell. I mean, very close. So, Ro Khanna calls for Schumer to be replaced after shutdown deal. Yeah, Schumer is going to be replaced, and it's probably going to be AOC, just because there's just no support for him anymore. Mamdani supporting Kathy Hochul dumps cold water on his key policies. Yeah, we just talked about that. She doesn't have the money, and even if she did, like, she's not going to approve it because budgets. Trump to host Syrian president on White House. Yep, he's there right now, getting treated like royalty. Because that's what happens if you're a killer these days. I guess you get treated like royalty by governments. Um, Scott Bessent calls out Stephanopoulos over shutdown hypocrisy. Yeah, there's been a lot of hypocrisy. A lot of people have been saying the wrong thing about the shutdown. DNC chair gets owned during interview over Schumer shutdown. This new poll shows how deep Dems they should get. Yeah, this is what I've been saying. Like, the polls for the Democrats are not their favor when it comes to the government shutdown. The majority of people realize that it's the Democrats' fault, even though the Democrats still won the election last week. Um, which is why I'm saying, like, they didn't even need to shut down the government. They still would have won the election. Democrats are insane. Leaked report alleges BBC misled viewers in editing of Trump's January 6th speech. Yeah, that's true. That was a story a couple days ago. Um, but that's not a surprise. I mean, the BBC, are we serious? Like, this is what CBS does. They literally edit stuff out and make it sound according to their agenda. Thune will keep the Senate in session until a funding deal is struck. Yeah, we'll see. It's all a battle. I mean, the Democrats don't even have to do this. Democrats' latest shutdown demands proof fight isn't about healthcare. Yep, obviously. All they say is healthcare, 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 but they're just trying to gain leverage. Rogan and Musk rip new North Carolina judiciary for letting career criminals walk free. Yep, that's what the Democrats do. They just let criminals walk free because they know they're going to vote for them. Trump urges Senate Republicans to redirect federal health insurance money to Americans. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Trump wants to send all the Obamacare money to the taxpayers directly, which obviously no one's going to use that wisely. But I think it's a better system than Obamacare because it'll actually keep people accountable. And if you spend all your money on other stuff and you don't have money for healthcare, your fault. It's about time we have that type of policy. Gavin Newsom admits Democrats have lost touch with men and boys. Yeah, Newsom keeps trying to appease Trump's base. He keeps trying to get them to like him, as if anyone's gonna like this woman. Gavin Newsom is a woman. Like, I mean, that's a joke, but like, nobody likes this guy. Nobody, even on the Democrats, like this guy. So he keeps going on podcasts and keeps saying stuff about transgender and how it's weird. And it's like, dude, you put on all these policies, and we all know it. We're not fish with a 3-day lifespan or attention span. We remember what you did last year and the years before. Spain is offering parents cash incentives to boost birth rate. This is a really good idea. I think the U.S. should be doing this, and the U.S. is kind of doing it with the $1,000 IRA thing that Trump set up. We need more kids. We need more native-born kids. The birth rate is too low. More countries should be doing this. Illinois poised to become first Midwestern state to legalize assisted suicide. So here we go, guys. We all heard about the stuff in Canada and other countries about assisted suicide and how it's not a bad thing and it's actually a good thing. Now it's coming to the US. See how quickly that happens. Will Germany deport 1.2 million Syrian refugees? Hell no, they're not going to do that. Germany doesn't seem to care about their refugee crisis at all. Men who planted fake bombs in Christian churches sentenced to federal prison. Wow, that's actually a crazy headline because usually when you attack a church or Christian, nothing happens to you. Wow, I'm actually surprised to see that. Gunman opens fire on Border Patrol agents in Chicago. Suspects still on the run. Yeah, there's a lot of gangs in Chicago that have already declared war on ICE, and they've told their people shoot on sight. This is why the National Guard needs to be deployed because Chicago is a war zone. I mean, you have in inner city Chicago, you have a diversity of different types of gangs that are literally all at war with each other. You have like 4 or 5 gangs that are going to war with each other every day in the streets. That's Chicago. That's what we would call a third world country, but it's a U.S. state, so yeah, Trump needs to send the National Guard, and who cares what Pritzker says, honestly. Georgia cop went under investigation after telling man to leave woman's restroom. Why would he be investigated for telling a man to leave a woman's restroom? My goodness. That's sounds like satire. Boston socialist running for Senate gets roasted for bizarre pharmacy claim. Yeah, there's been, even in San Francisco, there's a lot of weird people running for office. It's kind of concerning. Trump floats $2,000 tariff dividend checks for working class Americans. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. What can the Democrats say that this is bad? I mean, Trump is literally giving people money, or will. Mamdani vows to block ICE, defy federal immigration enforcement. Yeah, he said this before, and Trump has already commented on this. He said if Mamdani tries to block ICE, they're just going to arrest Mamdani. But I'm like, why can't you just do that in other states too? Like, what is stopping you from arresting Gavin Newsom right now, who's actively blocking ICE? It's the same thing. Yeah. Beijing suspends latest rare earth export curbs, restores soybean licenses. Yeah, I mean, this whole rare earth thing is going to be back and forth because Trump and China are still negotiating, and they're going to be negotiating in January as well. So we'll see what the final thing is. Trump and a man considering 50-year mortgages. Yeah, we talked about it. 50-year mortgage is a terrible idea. Nobody should ever do that, but it would open the window for more home ownership. I mean, some people really don't care about being in debt their whole life, so I'm sure a lot of people would take advantage of that. But it would also ruin a lot of people's lives. So this is just where we're at in affordability. The best option we have is 50-year mortgage. And even then, people are going to still struggle to pay it. So, yeah, if we could just fix the affordability crisis, we wouldn't have to worry about a 50-year mortgage. Trump administration announces Boeing deals in Central Asia. Yeah, Trump's just making deals left and right. He's been doing this since he got in. Like every day, he has a new deal with a new country, and this is specifically for Boeing. Um, so that's kind of funny how this happened during a government shutdown where flights are being delayed. But Duffy says air travel will be reduced to a trickle. Yeah, unless they pass the bill. I mean, we're looking at 20% flights being canceled this week, and maybe even more, unless they pass the bill. I mean, they already have the votes, so we'll see. So that's kind of all that happened today. Um, it's kind of a good thing the government's opening, even though it's not. Um, yeah, we need a better way of supporting air traffic control and paying our troops because if it relies on the government being open, that's just not really reliable anymore. If you look back on government shutdown, they're actually pretty common. So maybe we should have a different way to pay air traffic controllers that's not directly through the government because if this happens again, which it will, if another government shutdown happens again, we're just going to be in the same situation. And how does this look for air traffic controllers? I mean, if you want to be an air traffic controller, do you really want to be one now? After all this, all it takes is one government shutdown and you could be losing paychecks. So I don't know how they're going to recruit more people for that when they have a terrible reputation now. And it's not even their fault. Air traffic controller is relied on the government being open. So when it closed, it wasn't their fault. But how are you gonna encourage people to work for you if the government's being shut down all the time and no one can get paid? So they'll have to work something out with that. But that's about it that's happened. If anything insane happens, I'll let you know. Have a good day.